day we arrive on the planet, and blinking step into the sun. There's more to be seen than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. Some say eat or be eaten, some say live and let live, but all are agreed as they join the stampede. You should never take more than you give. It's the circle of life. It's the wheel of fortune. It's a leap of faith. It's a band of hope, till we find our place on the path I'm winding, yeah. In the circle of life. Some of us fall by the wayside, and some of us soar to the stars. Some of us sail through our troubles, and some have to live with the scars. If we're to take it here, more to find than can ever be found. But the sun rolling high and the sapphire sky keeps great and small on the edge found. It's the circle of life. It's the wheel of fortune. It's a leap of faith. It's a band of hope, till we find our place on the path I'm winding, yeah. In that circle of life. It's a wheel of fortune. It's a leap of faith. It's the bend of hope, till we find our place in the path I'm winding, yeah. In the circle of life. On the path I'm winding, yeah. In the circle of life.
Thank you, Summer. That was wonderful. Again, good morning. While I won't go into a great deal of detail, I've always been perplexed by the three Abrahamic scriptures, the Christian, the Jewish, and the Islamic, and their call upon humans to be good caretakers and stewards of the animals, when in reality, with few exceptions, all but turn a blind eye to how animals, and in particular the animals raised for food, are actually treated. Allow me to share my journey. As a volunteer with Colorado Voters for Animals, you'll often find me at the state capitol, speaking with lawmakers or testifying in support of animal welfare during hearings. I noted that religious views, more accurately religious laws, after all they are shells and shall nots, were particularly non-existent in dialogue when discussing legislation. The imaginary separation of church and state aside, my observations taught me that for some lawmakers, their personal religious views unquestionably had an influence on how they voted. So, as an experiment, I began to inject religious arguments into the mix. Loosely citing scripture, for example, not one sparrow falls that goes unnoticed by God. A righteous man has regard for the life of his animals, but even the compassion of the wicked is cruel. And the kicker, in the end, the question you will be asked is, what did you do to protect the animals that God entrusted into your care, and how will you answer? I found that one of the interesting things about injecting religion into debate with lawmakers is that no lawmaker is going to challenge you, at least not publicly. It's too risky telling someone the religious views are wrong, especially in front of an audience and when you're on the record. Yet it occurred to me that were I actually asked what my formal religious credentials were, I'd have to say none. And thus, while I didn't fully realize it at the time, began my journey towards study and ultimately becoming an ordained animal chaplain. Starting with the fount of all wisdom, Google, because this was long before OpenAI, I landed on the Unitarian Universalist Animal Ministry website. While I learned they offered resources and services connecting the relationship between humans and animals, they did not offer formal academic training. However, one of their board members directed me to the Emerson Theological Institute and its animal chaplaincy program. Up to this point, I really didn't know what an animal chaplain was, but I took a leap of faith and enrolled. Some people refer to such journeys as a strong internal conviction directing one towards a religious or spiritual path, a feeling of obligation to serve others, or simply a calling. Now, if you've never heard about animal chaplains, you're not alone. There are not a lot of us, at least when compared to chaplains who serve humans. Unofficially, there are over 10,000 human chaplains, but perhaps only 500 animal chaplains, and that's at the high end. There is a difference between chaplains and other spiritual leaders. Ministers, priests, rabbis, imams, and other spiritual leaders are usually connected with a specific church, temple, or mosque, and they usually serve in a defined geographic area, for example, a parish, an archdiocese, a conference, or a congregation. Chaplains, on the other hand, are typically more secular in their work. Beyond the sacred walls, they travel where they are needed. Army or Navy chaplains, for example, serve all faiths observed by our servicemen and women, no matter where they are stationed. Others may serve in hospitals, prisons, or correctional facilities. Animal chaplains are frequently wanderers as well, sojourners of a sort. Sojourner comes from the Middle English term sojourn, which describes someone who lives in a place temporarily. In the Bible, sojourners refer to temporary residents or foreigners living within a community, often administering to widows and orphans or others in special need of care and protection. So while animal chaplains may be affiliated with a particular church or faith, more often they are not. After all, there's no Catholic collies, no Jewish jaguars, and no Protestant penguins. I am often asked, so what does an animal chaplain do? Marry dogs? Absolve pets from accidents on the carpet? Well, today we are holding a blessing of the animals, and I promise we'll get there. My work tends to concentrate more on the human animal. What I have found, at least in my own work, is that animal chaplaincy involves two distinct areas of administering to humans rather than animals. The first area involves those who have lost a beloved family member, And here I'm referring to a pet or other companion animal with whom there's been a close bond. Despite an ever-growing body of evidence documenting the role animals play in our lives, bringing comfort, companionship, protection, and even improving our health. One second. Many people are told that animals have no souls. Many faiths say they do not go to heaven or join us in an afterlife. When seeking comfort from their spiritual leader, the grieving person often is told, "It's just an animal, get over it." And the grieving person is instructed to forget about it and move on, or worse still, they suggest the bereaved person just get another animal. Such rejection is both painful and hurtful. I have worked with some who abandon their faith following such encounters. This is one of the areas where animal chaplains can offer reassurance. They know a lost companion is anything but a thing. Their companion was part of their family, and for some, perhaps their only family. The loss and grief are just as real and deep as the loss of a partner, and maybe even more devastating. In confidence, some people have shared with me that the death of a pet was more devastating than the loss of their parents. A second area in my chaplaincy crosses into the veterinary world. Veterinarians have one of the highest suicide rates of any profession, and their annual turnover rate exceeds 23%. As a veterinarian, you may be faced with delivering bad news daily. You have to end an animal's life, sometimes because the animal can be saved, but because the owner can't afford the medical care. Think about how hard it must be to know you could have saved another's life, but the choice was not yours to make. Veterinarians can't go home every night and unload their frustrations, disappointments, and feelings of hopelessness on a spouse or a partner. That relationship would not last very long if they did. While priests preach, chaplains listen. Fire and brimstone versus frappuccino and biscottis. Solace for a weary veterinarian is often found in a cup of coffee, simply being listened to, not being judged, and having a brief respite from the daily weight upon one's shoulders. But let's leave the chaplaincy for the moment. Although the blessing of the animals is associated with St. Francis, whom we'll hear more about in a moment, I want to talk about two other animal visionaries who weren't saints, but perhaps are deserving of that title. Albert Schweitzer was born in 1875. He was a gifted academic, excelling in theology and music. He was a Lutheran pastor, a philosopher, a humanitarian, music scholar, and organist. Schweitzer's life and work profoundly influenced ethical 20th century thought. Yet despite being recognized as a leading scholar of the historical Jesus, which included his seminal work, The Quest for the Historical Jesus, he felt compelled to put his philosophical and spiritual convictions into action. And so, in his early 30s, he abandoned a comfortable academic life to study medicine with the intent of serving as a physician in Africa. In 1915, a now Dr. Schweitzer was traveling by boat up the Ogo River in French Equatorial Africa when he had a profound epiphany. In his own words, "At sunset on the third day, near the village of Ingenja, we moved along an island set in the middle of the wide river. On a sandbank to our left, 4 hippopotamuses and their young plodded along in our same direction. Just then, in my great tiredness and discouragement, the phrase reverence for life struck me like a flash. As far as I knew, it was a phrase I had never heard. I realized at once that it carried within itself the solution to the problem that had been torturing me. Now I knew that a system of values which concerns itself only with our relationship to other people is incomplete and therefore lacking in power for good. Only by means of reverence for life can we establish a spiritual and humane relationship with both people and all living creatures within our reach. Only in this fashion can we avoid harming others and within the limits of our capacity, go to their aid whenever they need us." From that moment forward, reverence for life became the cornerstone of his philosophical and humanitarian work. Reverence for life holds that all living beings have a will to live and that the moral person recognizes and honors that shared desire to exist. As Schweitzer put it, I am life that wants to live in the midst of life that wants to live. This was not some logical deduction, but a mystical insight, an intuitive spiritual awakening in which Schweitzer felt the interconnectedness of all living beings. It was in that moment, watching the hippos, that he came to the realization that every living being deserves to go on living and that all life has intrinsic value. Schweitzer's Reverence for Life philosophy was both radical and deeply spiritual, rooted in his Christian faith, yet reaching far beyond any one religion. It rejected anthropocentrism and instead called for a universal ethic that embraced all living things. Reverence for life, he argued, is the most profound and effective concept of ethics that has yet been discovered, one that challenges humanity to live with humility, compassion, and a sense of sacred interconnectedness. Schweitzer believed that ethical responsibility does not end with human beings. It must extend to animals, plants, and all forms of life. To him, true compassion required an active respect for the life and well-being of others, not just in belief, but in behavior. This ethic informed every part of his work, from his compassionate treatment of patients to his concern for animals and the natural world. His Reverence for Life philosophy was so compelling to others that it earned Schweitzer a Nobel Peace Prize in 1952. And Rachel Carson was so influenced by Schweitzer's ethic that she dedicated her book, Silent Spring, to him. Another luminary in sentience was Charles Sherlock Fillmore. Perhaps you've heard of him. Although Fillmore was a contemporary of Schweitzer's, I could find no evidence the two ever met or even knew of one another, but they shared a similar vision. Like Schweitzer, Fillmore believed the love of God must go out to every creature, not only to our fellow human beings, but to the birds and beasts and all creation. Fillmore wrote, "The same life that is in the beast is in man. The same omnipresent intelligence is present in both." I don't know if biblical scripture had influenced Fillmore's thinking about animals, but I'm reminded of ecclesiastical quote from verse 319, "Surely the fate of human beings is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so dies the other. All have the same breath." Fillmore believed violence towards animals was a disruption of spiritual harmony and divine law. He wrote that killing for food dulls our spiritual faculties and interferes with our ability to perceive divine truth. Fillmore believed the sixth commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," applied to all living things, and that a plant-based diet, as prescribed by God in Genesis 1:29, was conducive to both physical health and spiritual development. In accordance with such beliefs, in 1906, Charles and his wife Myrtle opened Unity Inn. Located in Kansas City, Missouri, at the time it was the largest vegetarian restaurant in the United States. 5 years later, he opened the Unity Pure Food Company with the mission of introducing food products that took the place of meats. Fillmore even published a Bible for vegetarians, bound in karatol, a tough cloth material treated to make it resemble leather, thus assuring his readers that no life would be sacrificed in its publishing. In April of 1921, in response to requests for Unity's perspectives on Christian doctrine, Fillmore published his 32 Statements of Faith. Number 28 read, "We believe that all life is sacred and that man should not kill or be a party to killing of animals for food. Also, that cruelty, war, and wanton destruction of human life will continue so long as men destroy animals." Curiously, in 1938, Statement 28 disappeared. When I asked Fillmore's great-granddaughter Connie about the deletion, she speculated that because Fillmore's belief was to serve the greatest number of people as possible and leave no one out, that removing the statement would allow individuals greater freedom to make their own choices. Now, it wouldn't be St. Francis Day without mentioning St. Francis, a saint whom the Catholics may claim, but many believe, as I do, that he really is a saint for all seasons, whether one is a believer or not. Francis was born in Assisi, Italy, into a wealthy family of cloth merchants. His family expected him to continue in the family business and lived the privileged life of a prosperous merchant-class young man. With aspirations of achieving knighthood, Francis joined the Assisi militia during the time of conflict between Assisi and the neighboring city of Perugia. As a soldier, he hoped to prove his bravery, but during battle, he was captured and spent a year in jail. His captivity was reportedly harsh, involving poor treatment, deprivation, exposing Francis to physical suffering and the uncertainty of his fate. The experience of his confinement exposed him to pain, vulnerability, and the limitations of worldly power. After being released, or perhaps ransomed, Francis returned home, albeit seriously ill and physically weakened. This period of illness forced him into prolonged convalescence and introspection, during which time he began to question his former ambitions and lifestyle. He began to experience a spiritual awakening, leading to the rejection of materialism and worldly fame. That rejection culminated in a dramatic public scene where Francis renounced his father's wealth and status in front of the Bishop of Assisi, and in front of all present, Francis stripped off his fine clothes and returned them to his father, saying, God was now his only father. Trading his finery for sackcloth, Francis embarked on a new mission of living in poverty, serving the poor, and loving all creation. Thus marked the beginning of a radical commitment to spiritual poverty and humility. This eventually led to the founding of the Franciscan Order, which continues to this day, including the Order of St. Francis of the Streets here in Denver. Francis's relationships with animals was unquestionably unique for his time. He believed that all creatures, human and non, were brothers and sisters under God. His theology was rooted in kinship and creation, emphasizing humility, peace, and reverence for life. In 2023, in Greccio, Italy, during a Christmas service, Francis brought live animals, including an ox and donkey, into the church to celebrate Christ's humble birth and emphasize the poverty and simplicity. This first inclusion of animals became a traditional part of today's nativity scenes. Of course, saints and stories about saints, whether true or not, go hand in hand. It is said Francis delivered a sermon to a flock of birds, blessing them and praising their freedom and joy in creation. My brother and sister birds, you should praise your Creator and always love him. He gave you feathers for clothes, wings to fly, and all other things that you need. It is God who made you noble among all creatures, making your home in thin, pure air. Without sowing or reaping, you receive God's guidance and protection. Some of you are probably familiar with the story of the Wolf of Gubbio, where Francis tamed a man-eating wolf that was terrorizing the town of Gubbio. Francis made a pact with the wolf whereby, if the townsfolk would feed him, he would not eat any more people, and the carnage ended. In another story, a rabbit caught in a trap sought refuge with Francis, who blessed and released it into a nearby wood. The rabbit, however, returned to Francis, hopping into his lap. After multiple releases and returns, Francis finally had a friar take the rabbit deep into the woods to ensure its freedom. In yet another story, a sheep, inspired by Francis's example, began attending Mass with the friars. During the elevation of the Eucharist, the sheep would kneel, showing reverence for the sacrament. Some accounts even have Francis buying lambs or fish from the markets only to release them, and he urged others not to unnecessarily harm animals. Today, and for decades before, Francis is widely regarded as the patron saint of animals and the environment due to his deep compassion towards all living beings. Among all three of these luminaries we have visited this morning runs a common thread, and I'll default to Schweitzer's Reverence for Life and the realization that all life is worthy of compassion, dignity, and respect. So let's now turn to our non-human brothers and sisters. Show of hands, how many of you are guardians of a companion animal? Could be a dog, a cat, a horse, a rabbit, a gerbil, a turtle, a fish, a parrot. I know we've got one out there somewhere. And any other living creature. And show of hands again. How many of you consider your companion to be a member of your family? You're not alone. A survey conducted last year reported 31% of pet guardians say they love their pets more than their partners. 59% would refuse to date someone who doesn't want pets. And 48% said they consider their pet as their child. Animals enrich our lives. I can't imagine a world without them, and quite frankly, without them, there might not be a world at all. Remember Ecclesiastes 3:19. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so dies the other. All have the same breath. Animals are our teachers. In Job 12:7, Job illustrates the wisdom and knowledge that can be found in the natural world by telling his friends, "But ask the animals, and they will teach you, the birds of the air, and they will tell you. Ask the plants of the earth, and they will teach you. And the fish of the sea will declare to you, in God's hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of every human being." If you believe as I do that every animal has a purpose, even if we have not yet discovered what that purpose is, then we should treat every animal, insect to whale, as a creature worthy of dignity and respect. Consider that the relationship between insects as pollinators was not officially recognized until 1793. Did you know pigeons do just as well as humans in identifying cancer in mammograms? Pigs use their snouts to move joysticks to play video games. Dogs can detect explosives, contraband, and hidden electronics, and some service dogs can predict a pending human's epileptic seizure or migraine headache, thus giving the person time to prepare. Rats have highly functional olfactory receptors and have been trained to find victims trapped following earthquakes or other disasters. Smaller and nimbler than dogs, the African giant pouched rat can navigate through tight passages and via a transmitter strapped to its back, send a location beacon to rescuers. Modern science has helped us understand what the ancients and many indigenous tribes already knew. There is a deep interconnectedness between humans and their non-human counterparts. Animals may be spiritual guides, protectors, or former personages. In the Hawaiian Amaku culture, such animals as turtles, sharks, and owls are the connectors to ancestral spirits that communicate through dreams or visions. They provide warnings or guidance to living family members. The origin of Day of the Dead is thought to have the roots in the return of the millions of monarch butterflies that go to the forest every fall in Mexico. In Mexican folklore, these are the souls of the deceased returning to visit their families. To share a personal story, when I scattered my brother's ashes, which had been bottled up and sitting on a shelf for decades, a bright green hummingbird appeared at eye level and hovered in front of me for several seconds before disappearing. It was almost as it was a message saying, "I'm finally free, thank you." Children and animals can form deep friendships that provide benefits such as reduced allergies, improved emotional support, empathy, increased confidence, and self-esteem. Children may confide in their animal friends, even the stuffed ones, finding comfort in sharing their secrets and concerns. For children, animals offer non-judgmental companionship, helping them feel valued through caretaking responsibilities, and their presence can ease social challenges and loneliness. And did you know that the interaction during calm between humans and dogs affects their heart rate variability, which is HRV, meaning they adapt to one another, in other words, synchronicity. Known as emotional co-regulation, one's emotional state influences the other's physiological response. This mirroring effect is similar to what we see between parents and humans. HRV has also been shown to exist between humans and horses, and I am sure further studies will widen the circle to include other species in this human-animal synergistic interaction. Animals are not lesser beings, but sacred expressions of the same source. They may be our spiritual guides, our companions, our protectors. They are teachers and healers, teaching us loyalty, presence, unconditional love, and forgiveness. They serve as guardians of the earth, with every creature having a role to play in the balance of creation. Animals exemplify compassion in action. How we treat them reflects our spiritual maturity and our interconnectedness to divine love. Anatole France, who won a Nobel Peace Prize for Literature, wrote, "Until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened." Today, we bless our animals not only with words, but with a renewed commitment to honor the sacred life that flows through all living beings. Humans, animals, plants, and earth are all interconnected into the web of life. Today, we bless the animals, but in reality, it is the animals that really bless us. To our beloved animal companions, pictured here or pictured clearly in our minds, you are sacred expressions of life. May all living beings, big, small, furred, feathered, scaled, or finned, visible or not visible, already born or yet to be born, may all of them dwell in tranquility. May all be healthy, safe, and surrounded by love. May your love continue to bless the world. We honor the light of God, spirit, or energy within you. For animals who have left us, we bless their spirits, those who now dwell in divine love and peace. We thank you for the time with us, for your lessons, your companionship, and the joy you have shared. We bless all animals, those with us, those far away, and those in spirit. May all beings know peace, may all beings be free, and may we walk gently upon the earth, honoring the life we share. So in closing, Holy Spirit of life, we give thanks for the joy, comfort, and wisdom that our animal companions bring. We go forth with open hearts, seeing the divine spark in every creature. May we be channels of compassion, protectors of the voiceless, and stewards of the earth. May it be so.
Bless the beast and the children, for in this world they can never be. World they dream. Bless the beast and the children, for in this world they have no choice. They have no light their way when the darkness surrounds them. Give them love, let it shine all around them. Bless the beast and the children, give them shelter from the storm. Keep them safe. Keep them warm. Light their way when the darkness surrounds them. Give them love, let it shine all around them. Bless the beast and the children, give them shelter from the storm. Keep them safe. Keep them warm. The children, the children.